personal, tried running. What do you say? No. Say it so we can all say Jai.
You saying?
You were saying the prayers to yourself.
Oh, I'm saying prayers to myself.
Say it loud.
Oh, loud.
Alright, I'm going to leave in a few minutes and take a nap. I'm not feeling so good. So don't take offense.
No, it's okay.
You talk, say something. You don't know our guest came?
She told us she'll come in 20 minutes time.
She what?
She will come in 20 minutes time.
In 20 minutes?
Yeah. Maybe it's not yet 20 minutes.
Huh?
Not yet 20 minutes, I think.
Maybe the other gentleman will come back.
You have his number?
You want some ginger tea? Madhava tea?
Just
The truth. What do we mean by when we say truth? Truth means that which is. Not temporarily, but eternally is. And is means being. So he was concerned with truth, with what is. As soon as you say what, you qualify is or being. Is something that has no determination. Everything is. If you say it is, then they can't tell what you're talking about, because everything is. Only you say what is, and the what means the determination of is, or determination of being, and that's what we mean by our concept. The concept is a determination of being. Not that they're just ideas like that, and then there is being. That's not the concept of things. That's just what we want to call an imagination. Concept is much more, what do you want to say, exact or precise. It requires concept, means a kind of a grasping.
of being?
Concept, yes, you're grasping something. An imagination is just something that you make in your mind, right? But a concept is something that is grasping something, comprehending it, knowing what it is, extracting its essence. And the essence of a thing and the thing itself, they're not different, because the essence is not here and the thing is over there. The essence belongs to that thing itself.
Maharaj. What happens when we take this back to the unicorn?
Unicorn, however, is not an eternal concept. That's the problem, an eternal idea.
No, but I can grasp a horse with a horn, because I've experienced both of those things, and I can conceive of that pretty well. I can almost feel it.
It is not comprehensive.
Sorry?
The comprehensive idea that you are speaking is not applied to that.
See, because, when you talk about, like for instance, a horse with a horn out.
Yeah.
First of all, you're talking about a horse. And a horse belongs to a particular species. Right? Whatever they call it, equine or whatever they call it. And equines don't have horns. So to speak about a horned horse doesn't fit into the category of equines.
Something like, thinking about a sugar with the taste of salt.
Or a gold mountain. Gold, mountain, you say gold mountain. So you can't mix categories. They call it category mistake or mixed categories. You have to think logically, rationally. And that's what Plato established. That those pure thoughts that are based on reason, they are already, because those are the true things. The ideas are the truth. And these imitations of those ideas, that's the false thing. Those are the temporary.
But we don't have the idea until we experience.
No, that's for us. That's what we think, because we're given the ideas in advance by our parents or teachers or whoever, society. Otherwise, we don't come up with them ourselves. So we have them because they're given to us. Well, who had them first? Where do they come from first? So Plato is saying they exist already in an eternal world. Otherwise, we could not have them.
I don't follow. If I
Well, how do you come up with the idea of, like we said, ocean?
a horse, I walk
Oh,
out in
horse.
the field and I see three horses. Nobody's ever told me there's a horse, but I see three of them. I go, that's similar. That's
But
similar.
why do you call it a horse? That's because
Well,
somebody told
that's
you.
that's the verbalization
But
of it.
that horse has its genus. You've heard of, with the when genus, species, and specimen, what that means? You know, when you have families and kingdoms and kinds and phylogenetic tree,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
These things are already there. It's not that we create horse. We may say the word horse, but what it refers to is something that has already been there.
But I don't have a concept of horse until I experience horse.
I think I know. If you were to see horses with cows and goats, you have no idea what the names are. You just experience them without anybody introducing them to you before. Like you said, you would say, oh, those are similar, but this is different. So then you would say the differences of the udder versus the hoofs on the horse and the mane of the horse. You would start, that's the concept coming to fruition because it's already there.
From your own brain, some concept would come there. But if you never saw anything, you never saw any horse, you're not going to come up with a concept. You can't say the concept pre-exists and proves the existence of.
But the concept, like he said before, the concept is non-different than the existence. And the concept of the horse, of what makes a horse, the long neck, the snout.
The perfect concept. It cannot be from merely the finite experience of that. Like,
He's right. What he said is perfectly put. The concept belongs to the horse. You can't separate the essence of the horse or its concept from the horse
Go a
itself.
step back then. You said there's a difference between imagination and concept.
Yes.
Concept, in my mind, is because you see a bunch of horses, you come up with a concept of horse. But we've never seen God, so then we would say God is just imaginary. It's just coming from our brain. It doesn't come from
Oh,
outside.
no, but, okay.
What I understood, Maharaj, what you are saying, that the concept horse does not come to a person when he takes birth without any training or without anybody giving him the concept of horse. Then the concept is passed down by something. So you are tracing back from where that original concept is coming. So in that sense, it makes more emphasis that there is a person from which all the concepts are coming. I mean, a personal reality is there. Ideal plane.
Okay. But I want to get to this point again about the concept is there in the horse itself. They're not something outside of the horse.
Like the determining factors, right? Whatever makes the species or the genus, whatever you want to call it, whatever specifications they use to define that an organism is belonging to this genus are there in the being itself. Without
Yes.
having a word for it, you observe. Even if you had no language, just through sense perception, you would observe certain likenesses in certain beings and likenesses in another group of beings, and those two groups have differences. So that is the concept of what the horse species, after we give it a word, it's coming from what we're actually observing, the similarities there amongst this given population versus the similarities of that population and the differences between the two. The concept that we're putting words to is already existing just through the observation before words even come into the picture.
But we don't observe God, so we're talking about the proof of the existence of God. I don't know where we can.
And what about the concept of electron per se?
Well, that's a mathematical thing.
So, but it originated. It was not there, but it originated.
Yeah, but it's not still, even after they call it electron, it's still not there. Right, something unknown doing it, they don't know what. So that's just a made up thing. Now, but when you talk of, now how do you know that God exists? Well, if God is the concept of, that includes all other concepts within it, that's called the greatest concept. There's nothing that prevents us from saying that. But what Plato is saying is that because all those concepts exist, they not only are ideas in our mind, but they're ideas that have their own reality, their own being, because they're truths. Because it's that composition that makes up what we call truth. And that truth as a totality also has a being. Because he never separated them from the start. You understand? He said you can't separate being and concept. You can't separate them. That's Descartes' fallacy. That's dualism. We don't separate them.
I'm not following.
We separate them because of our conditioning, but they're never separate. Just like when Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. What he did there is he combined thinking and being in one statement. I think. Thinking is a thought. But then he said, I am.
So,
Right? He associated being with the thinking. Because I'm thinking, I am being. The thought makes me be.
Correct. So anybody can
He
think.
says
and
when he
be.
went into the restaurant, into the bar rather, do you know that story? When Kant went into the bar, not Kant, Descartes went into the bar, and the bartender said, "You want a drink?" And Descartes said, "I think not," and he disappeared.
I've heard the joke.
So the thinking and being, he said they are identical. And why, when you think, you understand that you are. So you connect, you're also identifying thought with being. That's what Plato said.
Maharaj, so what you said about truth, about first the nature of truth itself, I think explains the proof of God, because once we have truth, what is truth? That which is always is. There is this, we're using this truth as a comparison, things that are not true and we're trying to make them true, right? I am blue. That's not true. That's not what is. But then, based on our association with the color peach or whatever, that's coming closer to truth, something closer to what is. So you are true. Whatever, before I put any other descriptions, you are true. You are there. You're in front of me. You are true. You are true. You are both true. I am experiencing you. You are true. So then we keep going in that plane of truth. What separates the two truths that are you? I'm experiencing you, I'm experiencing you, you're both true. And then I keep going in truth, you're both true. So there's this plane of truth that you're both existing in. The wall is true, it's there. There's truth in it, I see it, I'm experiencing it. You're all true, so there's this plane of truthfulness that is evident in all of you, and that's the unifying factor, and that's coming towards what God is, right?
Yeah, because, you can't say that any particular this wall or anything is true, and that's in the sense that it's not permanent. But there is some wall, there's the idea of wall, and that is permanent, and that has its own being. Otherwise you couldn't have this temporary thing. That's what Plato was pointing out. All of these things are just temporary. They're not the real truth. They are the ultimate truth. Understand? There is a truth, and it's whatever we see is a copy of that, or some kind of
The shadow.
an imitation.
Reflection?
Of that.
Shadow?
Plato called it a participation. These things are participating in that higher idea. But these are specific instantiations. Now, instances, in other words. An instance is a temporary thing. That's means instant. It only exists for a particular instant. Maybe 100 years or whatever, but that's still an instant. See, out of eternity. So those things are not the truth. You can't just consider the things by themselves as the truth. They participate in a truth that is universal. And this requires understanding one thing, very important, that I always talk about. That's the universal, particular, and individual. Now, human being is a particular. Of what? This, let's say myself, or any of you. You're a particular instance of human being. We all are. But human being as a universal, we're all instances of that. That universal also has its existence. Okay? This is where we make the mistake. You think universal, well, what's that? I don't see the universal human being. But it must be there if you are to be considered a human being. A dog is considered an animal. We can't say animals don't exist. You only have dogs, cats, lions, tigers, and so forth.
Some people
Where is
say that.
animal? Huh?
Some serious philosophers say that.
Yeah. So, but without animality, that you can't say what the dog is or the cat or anything else.
Maharaj.
So the animal is a substantial concept of the thing that it makes it what it is. So you can't say that's just a thought.
But the universal almost sounds impersonal now.
Yes.
So
But
then,
it exists nonetheless. has to exist
Yeah.
because
No, how can
we-
you say?
because we exist. That must, the universal must exist because it explains our essence. It is what makes our substance.
So then it's the most personal, actually.
Huh? Well, if you consider now that's from I'm talking about bodies.
Yeah.
But if you consider now from the personal point of view, you are a person, we're all persons. Then there's a universal person also. That's not definitely personal, not impersonal.
The most personal.
Right.
I think the mistake that he's making, at least as I feel, he's thinking that the universal is a kind of not an individual, but I see from the Hegel's philosophy, it's only in the individual that the whole philosophy becomes concrete. So in other words, the universal must also have an individuality.
No, when we talk of person, we mean an individual. So when you talk about a universal person, you mean a universal individual is a kind of contradiction. But it cannot be understood also. Because, you know, in the Linnaean classification of species, you'll find mammals, you can find fowl, find fish, you know, all different types of creatures, plants, insects. Now, they are all universals, but at the same time they are particulars because compared to one another, they're different from one another. A fish and a mammal are two particular. So they can be both a universal and a particular and also an individual
At
at the same time.
Yes.
And so universal doesn't mean that it's only universal and it can't be individual.
That will be abstraction.
Huh?
That will be abstraction. That will be abstraction.
Abstraction, yeah. Not only universal. Anyhow, you came at a very philosophical discussion today. There may be too much. Do you know anything
No,
about philosophy?
Not like you people, it's very minimum, I mean zero. So what I'm really listening to you people are talking, it's good information. I mean,
Okay.
it's somehow where we studied little in the books, just recollecting little bit and more informative.
Well, generally we don't, in our public meetings, we don't speak like this, but only in preparation for our scientific conference, we have to understand certain technical terms, you know, about universal, particular, individual, things like that. And the difference between thinking and being, or concept and reality. These are very intricate topics. And if you're dealing with those people who are into that type of philosophy, we have to know something about Plato and others who have dealt with these subjects. So that's all we're discussing it here. Before you came, and we didn't know whether you're going to come or not, so kindly forgive us.
No, it's, I need to say sorry because I'm making you to be quiet. So it is my mistake. I need to come.
So do you know about Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu? Do you know anything about this, or just Krishna?
No, after I got the message, then only I got through the website, then I saw there are other institutions also related to and who are all in the conference. Then I saw all the institutes in the website. I saw it's just amazing. You have all the out of 7 continents, almost 6 continents. You have all over the world.
Okay, Maharaj, would you like to explain to her? How Mahaprabhu?
Lord Mahaprabhu. We belongs to the line of Gaudiya Sampradaya, Brahma, Madhava, Gaudiya Sampradaya.
Oh.
So there are 4 schools and 4 acharyas are there.
Okay.
Madhvacharya, and then there is Ramanuja Acharya, Vishnu Swami and Nimbarka.
Okay.
So there are 4 sampradayas. Sri Sampradaya Acharya is Ramanuja Acharya, our Sampradaya first Acharya is Madhvacharya, and Vishnu Swami is also Rudra Sampradaya, and then Nimbarka is from Kumar Sampradaya. So in our Sampradaya, when the line descend through Lord, Supreme Lord, to Brahma, Narad, and then Vedavyas to Madhvacharya, in this way, in our line, Lord again appeared as Krishna appeared in Dwapar Yuga, but he not distributed the love of Godhead. He executed that pastime, but he not distributed. To distribute that, he came as devotee, because God himself cannot distribute it if you don't, taste or relish it. I mean, he taken the position of a devotee to distribute that. He can give it, but it is not so much, like exemplary, or, if you don't, execute that mood of devotion or surrender. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared around, 500 odd years, back, 530, I think. How many years now? 530 or
This is 2019, so 19 plus 14, 33, 533.
530 or 33 years back in a island. 9 islands are there near Calcutta on the bank of Ganges called Navadip Dham. So he appeared there, and whenever Lord comes, he comes with all his associates. So Lord Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Balaram also came, and he came as Nityananda Prabhu. So they executed the wonderful pastime. In this age, Kali Yuga, people are most fallen. So he not taken the position of killing the demons, because we are all acting like demons. So he taken a very compassionate position, and he killed the demoniac mentality in the heart through a very simple method of chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So he distributed that, mantra, and he given emphasis to the association of devotees, and he given, emphasis to the teachings of surrender, Saranagati. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna given the concluding, statement that you have to give up all your duties and surrender to me. But he not shown how to surrender. So he himself came to teach how one can surrender. So he given that 6 limbs of surrender. Sadanga, Saranagati. So, here this institute, we are Bhakti Vedanta Institute, is founded by Srila S. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, who preached worldwide the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Sripad Puri Maharaj, and my Guru Maharaj, also Bhakti Damodar Maharaj, and few other scientist disciples that Prabhupada wanted this institute to organize to defeat the what you can say, misconception that is spread on the name of science. So he wanted to use their tools or language to defeat them, and that's why this institute being formed. And the activity of the institute is to help the scientists understand the limits of the aggressive way of knowing things, that how much finite can know by its own capacity.
It's correct, it's science, because as you're talking about the universe and particular and individual, it's all the concept of, that's called universe, correct? We study. So it's upward, maybe it's maybe different, the same thing, but if you're doing different way, the way is different, but the concept is remains same. It's what we are doing, what we are teaching. So it's good. It's nice. I've gone through the website and read through something. It was nice. Something new.
What did you say?
She is saying that she gone through some of the literature.
Sorry?
She gone through some of the literature
In your website, after this,
visiting our website,
yeah.
and she could read some of the things.
Okay. Good, you saw PVISCS.org?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And then yes, I think ESP, I use the another one.
SCSI.
Yes.
So Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Maharaj explained, is an incarnation of Krishna, avatar. And he specifically explained that we are the eternal servant of Krishna. We're not God. In a sense, we are part of God, and therefore not different, but otherwise we're servant of God. He said, Krishna Nityadas, that we are the Jivara Swarupoy Krishna Nityadas. In Bengali, it means we are the eternal servant, Nityadas, eternal servant of Krishna. So our function in life is to serve God, serve Krishna. And so we try to do that. We can do that in different ways, but preaching, by teaching, by whatever skills we have, utilizing them in the service of Krishna. Just like you are an accountant, if you use your skills to serve the devotees, to serve the Lord, that is what Mahaprabhu is trying to teach. And in that process of serving Krishna, we develop love. Our heart will open. Mahaprabhu will become pleased with us. Krishna will become pleased with us. And the reward for pleasing Krishna, he gives us love for himself. And one who develops that love for Krishna, his life will become perfect. He won't have to take another time to take birth again. You know, samsara, reincarnation, all those things. You're Indian, so you know these things, right? So there are many processes given for how to get out from that samsara. In Bhagavad Gita, it explains karma yoga, jnana yoga, other hatha yoga, different things. It also explains Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga is the process for developing love of God. When that awakens within your heart, then you get free from the material cycle of birth and death. It's a very beautiful process and sweet, very lovely process of loving and offering everything to Krishna. Before we eat, we always offer our food to Krishna, things like that. And offer some incense, whatever. And then offer our skills also. Whatever we know, our intelligence, whatever we have to, whatever we understand how to do things, try to do that for Krishna also. So I appreciate your serving attitude. Maharaj told me you wanted to do some service for us, and you're with the account. You're going to be very valuable for us.
Sure.
And very helpful. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure Krishna will bless you for your kind heart
Thank you so
and your
much.
good intentions.
Sure.
But that's basically what Mahaprabhu introduced, like Maharaj explained. In the Bhagavad Gita we find Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Parittaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Sharanam means surrender. So Krishna tells us, surrender to me. Huh? But then what happens after you surrender to Krishna? What do you do? What is a person who is surrendered to Krishna? What is he like? What to do after that? So we accept Krishna, first of all. We know we have to approach him, but what do we do? So Mahaprabhu is teaching how to do that. And the first thing we want to do is to learn how to chant the names of God. Hare Krishna. Who can do that in their life, even that is just enough. But if you can do more, just like I said, using your skills in the service of the Lord, that's very nice. That is what spiritual life is all about. And your life from that point on becomes spiritual life. No longer are you considered materialistic. Okay? And that's what we want. We want everyone to take up their spiritual life and leave this material cat and dog race, leave that behind. That's basically what we're doing. And one of the most important sections of society that is misleading people into the materialistic way of life is the scientists. They don't know anything, they know nothing about God, only how to get this gadget and that gadget and make this invention and that invention. So if we can teach them how to understand that their science can also be used in the service of Krishna. Not that you have to stop doing science, but science should be theistic. That should be how to understand that there is something more than just mechanical processes at work. Well, life, like we always have to say, life comes from life. If a scientist can't make a blade of grass in the laboratory, they know the carbon, hydrogen, all these things that are there, photosynthesis, all these processes. But can they put, with all their knowledge, make a blade of grass? A blade of grass is a living thing, you see. They can't put it together with just chemicals. It won't happen. So, like that, just use their intelligence, their scientific intelligence, to understand certain things. That why do they say that life comes from chemicals when they can't do it? They say you're just some chemicals, some DNA, proteins, enzymes, this, that, the other thing. No, that's not what life is. Well, that's maybe there in the body, but that's not what produces the life. So life is a special thing within every organic body. So when the body dies, what happened to the life? Life is left. So it's not just the chemicals of the body that produces life. The chemicals are all there in the dead body. But where's the life? Where's that gone? What has caused that life in that body? They have to deal with. And the body itself is not just a combination of chemicals. It was produced in a certain way by the living force within that embryo that produced the body. It's just like the grass. It's produced from the seed. The seed, there's a life there. Not just the seed produced the degradable outcome, because the life was there. You can have a dead seed, and it won't produce anything. But if it's alive, then it will go through the whole process. So the scientists don't have any idea what that life force is and how that's operating to produce so many wonderful things. It's like living entities can produce an enormous city that can grow from the work of so many living entities, right? It's all like that. The body is also like a city within itself.
When a cell is like a city, basically.
Yes, and so it's growing. It's going on because of the living entity inside of it. Otherwise, cities don't just pop up out of the ground. Like chemicals falling from atoms and molecules bouncing into one another. There's some intelligent activity going on. Same thing with the body. This body is a very complex thing. So without the living entity there, it doesn't happen. And not only us, but we don't even know how that's working. So there has to be an even higher intelligence than us at work. And that's called, we are called Atma, and then there's Paramama. The higher being, who is actually producing everything for us. Anyhow, all this knowledge is there in the scripture. And if we study that, and we try to understand it and apply it in our life, there's so much benefit we can get. And society can go in the right direction, more spiritual, more holy, more peaceful, more joyful, more spiritually productive, meaningful life. Anyhow, so we take our service because we're all trained scientists, Maharaj and
So everybody even
all three of us are scientists. Krishna, Madhava, all are very well-educated persons, but they are specialized in science. Because we have our scientific training, we're using that, and they're helping to approach that most important of all sections of society, the scientists, and help them understand. And also the students, they're not even being taught these things at the universities, they don't know it. They're being taught by people who don't know the ultimate goal of life, and so how are they going to learn? So we try to influence by producing literature and things like that, holding conferences, lectures. And,
so nowadays you're going to the university and teaching the profession?
We sometimes go to give talks, wherever we get opportunity, we get invitations.
Oh.
And we hold conferences.
Okay.
That way. And we have a list, Sadhu-Sanga group, where we are discussing with all university scientists. And 40,000 members are there.
So here everybody's throughout the year you'll be here, or it's here? I saw you're traveling, touring in every place.
We sometimes will go, but Maharaj always holds every Saturday.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
What she said?
Are you having regular program here, or sometime she's seen we are traveling to different places? She said, I told that you regularly hold here.
Wherever people are willing to invite us, we'll go.
Yeah, correct. But the institute, it's regularly, day by day, daily it's running here, it's operation, or it's only particular period you
Every
will have
Saturday,
a conference?
1 to 3. Institute regularly continues.
Okay.
Every Saturday, 1 to 3.
Here. This,
Yes,
this
yeah.
Okay.
This is our center,
Mhm.
a little center.
Okay, good. You said, I'm sorry if I'm asking, but you have a temple as such? Or?
This is our center.
Okay.
And we have one and they have their own institute in India, which is also doing the same thing, sister institute.
So you have all over the world, the institute?
No,
not
we're
as
actually
a
only
temple.
these two centers we have at present. Now, there are other organizations. ISKCON has their own, you know, ISKCON.
Saraswat.
She
Sri
made-
Chaitanya Saraswat Math is there.
Saraswat Math.
Yes.
Huh?
She knows Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math.
I didn't know anything about before.
Yeah,
Now
but
only
from the
I
searching,
After
you know.
this
Huh?
website, I
From the web, visiting the
Oh,
website.
okay.
yes, all the from where all the PhD holders is coming and the teaching. Then I saw everybody related to which institute I saw.
The worldwide organization that you're talking about is the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute, which is the spiritual organization that we're all a part of. But these two institutes, the one in India,
Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. The worldwide.
I said, yeah, the worldwide is the MUT. The institutes that we're organizing this conference, their institute in India and this institute right here are, they're existing independently from that organization, but the spiritual organization that we're part of is the Sri Caitanya Saraswat Mutt. And that's where they have centers all over the world. Yeah.
We have temples in Puri, Vrindavan,
Yes.
and here also, you know, some temples are there in California.
Yeah, I saw California.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking. Here, this side, California
We-
is
we-
the main quarters.
Yeah, we are looking for bigger space for the institute. We don't have at present, you know, the funds and infrastructure, but we are trying to work on that to have a bigger, facility.
What Maharaj started to say is there's another organization called ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It was founded in the United States. It's the same, historically and philosophically, it's the same line that we're in. It's completely separate institution. It's huge. They have probably 300 temples around the world.
Oh.
And so
That
they
maybe
have
I
some
am not
organizations with
aware,
a
yeah.
similar name, Bhaktivedanta Institute,
Yes.
similar name. So if you go online, you might run into the ISKCON
Okay.
people.
Okay.
We're a small organization, separate.
What about Bhakti Vedanta presentations, is it here?
Vedanta?
There is a one institute gone through this one in the website. Bhakti Vedanta. If I put, there is another one in New Jersey. It's called Bhakti Vedanta.
Institute of Spiritual Culture and Science?
No, that's what this one.
This
Correct?
one,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bhakti Vedanta Presentation Inc. Presentation.
That's probably
Maybe
related
different.
to ISKCON. That was my